It's official that the jury ruled in favor of Johnny Depp. What's your opinion on this? Serious. One, happy that Depp got justice for it, but more happy that I think this shined a very necessary light on the idea that women can also be abusers to men, which is something that I think even a lot of men struggle with accepting. I've known men in relationships who refuse for whatever reason to admit they're so abusive towards them, even in public settings where it's plainly obvious. So this helps that. 2. Unfortunately, I do think this case will have a sadder side effect where very toxic men will use this case specifically to galvanize their own beliefs that women are liars and will use this case to justify their own hate for women who come out against their own abusers. It's a bit of a double-edged sword here, but I do think the larger idea behind this is pretty positive. I think the most important thing about this case is that it shines a light on abuse against men. I hope that men seeing it happen to Depp will find the courage to step forward and help themselves. As a woman, this is a victory. We can't have gender equality if we don't treat both genders with equal skepticism in a court of law. Amber's evidence was close to non-existent, and her case was built entirely on spoken stories. JD's evidence was not based on stories, but on audio recordings, witness testimonies, experts and hard rebuttal of what Amber presented.
I'm happy Johnny won. It shows that men can be a victim of domestic violence, and just because they're a man doesn't mean they can't get abused. It also shows how domestic violence victims testify in court compared to abusers like Amber Heard. I believe you can't have a Me Too without including or considering that men can be abused and women can be the abusers against them. I hope this will actively encourage men to come forward about being abused by their so. Good to see someone with some sense on this. There's a huge difference between #BelieveWomen and taking literally everything a woman says as gospel without evidence, and a guilty until proven innocent stance for the men. Justice is blind. It should not matter if the accuser or defender is a woman, a man, or a cat. Evidence is what matters in a court of law. What comes about from women by default being believed and guilty until proven innocent for men. Men with things to lose simply don't enter relationships. If a woman can just trump up some abuse charges and get half the man's belongings and ruin their career and life. Now, where the allegations are true and there's evidence. Absolutely. But Heard was doing things like making allegations of him abusing other women who turned around in court and outright said yeah no. And of course Heard is spewing out that this is a sad day for women card. It's not about you being a woman. It's about evidence. Believe Women was a shitty slogan to rally around from the beginning. Women are perfectly capable of lying just like anyone else. Take women's claims seriously is a much more accurate slogan. I'm just glad it's over. What a fucking shit show. My sister was almost killed by her abuser in 2013. That vile woman Amber Heard makes a mockery of true survivors, and I am pleased that karma came around for her. I'm thinking about how Britney Spears was a laughingstock for years, till we collectively reassessed the facts later and realized just how badly she'd been fucked over, how shamefully she'd been treated, and what a bad precedent for others in that situation the whole thing set. Yeah, the whole trial by media and public opinion happens a lot with our culture and fixation on celebrity types. It's not fair to the real, flawed human lives on put display for us. But, I'm not sure what from this situation reminds you of that? Because other than what I mentioned above, I don't think the points you mentioned relate at all. 12 of 14 acts of abuse that Heard accused Depp of were proved to the civil standard by a judge in the previous case. There was a pretty clear media campaign going on from Depp's camp. You think this court case blew up on TikTok the way it did organically? Doubtful. I'm not in any position to determine whether Heard was lying or not, but I very much doubt that Depp is completely innocent and Heard is completely guilty in this case, which is how a lot of people are treating it. I'd say it's incredibly likely that at least some of Heard's allegations were true, but looking at the way the case has been covered both by media outlets and by individuals on social media, you would think Depp is some kind of saint. I'm suspicious. Fuck Amber Heard, hope her career never recovers. F Amber Heard? That's what got us into this mess. Elon Musk enters chat. He absolutely deserved that win. Nobody knows exactly what happened between the two of them, but the evidence speaks clearly against Heard's extensive DA accusations and, point blank, she used the press in her own favor. She lied under oath, made false statements and tried to manipulate both the jury and her lawyers. Depp had serious, concentrated and efficient witnesses, clearly proving many of her statements as false. Living in a country where the Me Too movement is absolutely not prominent, I think the sheer audacity of Amber dragging her own fame and stories, making a hoax of a serious topic is far worse, as she has defamation a lot of that and probably set that movement ages back. Whatever really happened between them, she destroyed and defamation his career, the lives of his kids and made it even harder for victims to come forward with their stories. She should get jail time just for that. Emo. Whatever really happened between them, she destroyed and defamation his career. That statement is completely nonsensical. She destroyed and defamed his career if and only if she was the main abusive one. If he was abusive, he destroyed his own career and she didn't defame him. How can you come out with this shit after such a long circus? That it doesn't matter what really happened between them. What a stupid thing to say. It's my opinion. You don't agree with mine, I don't agree with yours. And it's not nonsensical because my point has two different arguments in it. Read my comment right if you want to blow up on someone's opinion. I also said, whatever happened between these two, we will never know, but it was proven she lied and made up scenarios. That is the embodiment of defamation. I study German law, not American, but even my knowledge of American law is enough to understand that and why the jury ruled as they did when it comes to that point. Hence, the verdict was correct and just in my eyes. She did drag him through the mud, she did lie, she did create scenarios that were proven false by Depp's witnesses. She swore up and down she didn't wrote the op-ed. She did. She sold copyright to TMZ, that's literally using someone's name against them and in her favor. I neither said he's innocent, but when it comes to this case, he was clearly ruled as the one with the right on his side. That's how law works. If you want to argue over that, get your statement right and actually try to understand what the other commentator wants to say. The only stupid thing is your comment that picks the disconnected parts from my entire thesis here. Seemed fair enough. I'm not sure about the amount awarded since it seemed like he lost a lot more than that from losing movie roles, but I hope he can sue the studios that fired him based on the defamation. I don't think he's a great person either, but I hope the publicity of this trial will save future people from getting romantically involved with Amber Heard. He can't sue the studios. To do that he'd have to prove they knew the allegations are false, did not fear public retribution, and fired him regardless. He can't sue the studios. Even if he could, one of them would be Disney, and no one has enough money to do that. I support the decision based on how the evidence was presented. Obviously I will never know what truly happened, but I think the right decision was made here. However, I want all survivors to be given a fair chance to be heard regardless of their gender identity. I don't want this case to be used against women, but I also want people to believe men can be victims too. After all, our gender does not dictate how good or bad of a person we are. My opinion is that the trial was a circus and no one but Depp and Heard know went on in their relationship. I think both parties are victims in their own right and good and bad things will come from it. Hopefully this will give more abused men a voice, but I can already see a wave of misogyny coming. These are my feelings as well. People jumped on Depp's side early because of a leaked court document that was written by Depp's own lawyers. Depp's recordings don't tell us the whole story either, because if you know you're recording a conversation, of course you're going to act calm and reasonable. It's clear that Depp sustained some injuries and dealt with emotional abuse. What's not clear is whether or not he caused or contributed to these situations with abuse of his own. I think people who are 100% convinced Heard is a liar and Depp is completely innocent have probably been exposed to a lot of misinformation. Good. Amber is a horrible woman and a spouse abuser. Her losing the case does more than hit her financially. It exposed everything she is behind closed doors. I don't know if this case will resonate in more criminal-focused cases. But I hope courts use this information when discussing male abuse and the hurdles one must go to see a modicum of justice. I think this will hopefully open the doors for more conversations about toxic femininity. I also hope he gets to be Jack Sparrow again. And I hope he gets his role back on Fantastic Beasts.